The leading Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee began Thursday's hearing by flat out lying about the Ukraine phone call. The Democrats running for president have new information on Joe Biden, but will they use it? And an awesome charity drive goes sour with the help of the media. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
God bless the United States of America.
All right, friends, happy Friday and welcome to the show. We're going to jump right in because this whole Ukraine phone call is still dominating the news. And yesterday began the first round of this latest witch hunt against President Trump. And it all has to do with the Ukraine phone call and this whistleblower complaint. And if you recall from Wednesday's show, I put a link in to the transcript of the phone call. So you and everyone else could read it and see that there's nothing there. It's a phone call between two country leaders, two world leaders, and there's nothing there. Well, they released the whistleblower complaint, and if you look at that, there's nothing there as well. It's just a big collection of, oh, I heard this from this guy who said bad things about President Trump, or I heard this from another guy who said he saw some stuff, or I heard third hand that the president was talking politics with a world leader. There is none, zero actual firsthand information presented in this complaint. It's entirely bogus. And yet, again, the Democrats went from Russia and the Mueller investigation to now Ukraine and House hearings. It's just the same old thing. Investigate, investigate, investigate. And it's bad politics, but the Democrats keep doing it. And I just wanted to show you, just to see how big a farce this is, to show you some of the opening statements from Democrat Adam Schiff, who chairs the House Intelligence Committee. What he said yesterday, it just shows you the level that the Democrats are at, and it's pathetic. So here's part of his opening statement.
For yesterday, we were presented with a record of a call between the President of the United States and the President of Ukraine, in which the President, our President, sacrificed our national security and our Constitution for his personal political benefit.
All right, seriously, sacrifice our national defense and Constitution for political benefit. This is his whole angle, and this is what they get from the Ukraine phone call and this whistleblower complaint. I mean, but Schiff goes on. Check this out.
And so what happened on that call? Zelensky begins by ingratiating himself, and he tries to enlist the support of the president. He expresses his interest in meeting with the president and says his country wants to acquire more weapons from us to defend itself.
So that's Schiff's take on the Zelensky side of things. And then he moves on to President Trump. And that's where any pretense of fairness or anything like that just goes right out the window. And here's Schiff.
And what is the president's response? Well, it reads like a classic organized crime shakedown.
See what we're dealing with here? An organized crime shakedown? So after that, Schiff goes from, this dramatic exaggeration to flat out lying. Here's what he said.
I hear what you want. I have a favor I want from you, though. And I'm going to say this only 7 times, so you better listen good. I want you to make up dirt on my political opponent, understand lots of it. On this and on that, I'm going to put you in touch with people, and not just any people. I'm going to put you in touch with Attorney General of the United States.
See, so it's unreal. It's just flat out unreal. Blatant lies. President Trump made reference to the Bidens in just one part of this conversation, not 7 times like he said. And he never asked the president of Ukraine to make up political dirt, lots of it, on his opponent. It's just flat out lies. And Representative Turner, Republican from Ohio, on the committee, at least acknowledged it and called it out so Schiff's lies wouldn't go unchecked. And here's what Turner said.
What else it's not the conversation that was in the chairman's opening statement. And while the chairman was speaking, I actually had someone text me, is he just making this up? And yes, he was. Because sometimes fiction is better than the actual words or the text. But luckily the American public are smart, and they have the transcript. They've read the conversation. They know when someone's just making it up.
All right, so guess what happened after Turner spoke? All right, confronted with the fact that he's just lying in his opening statement about the Ukraine transcript, Schiff backpedals and said he was just joking, that it was kind of a parody. And here's a report from the Washington Times. It says, I want to mention that my colleague is right on both counts. It's not okay, but also my summary of the president's call was meant to be at least part in parody. The fact that that's not clear is a separate problem in and of itself. Of course, the president never said, if you don't understand me, I'm going to say it 7 more times. My point is, that's the message the Ukraine president was receiving in not so many words. The issue has to do with how many times Mr. Trump asked the Ukraine president to contact Attorney General William Barr about the role of former Vice President Joe Biden and his son Hunter in Ukraine politics and business. A Wall Street Journal story said Mr. Trump pressured Mr. Zelensky 8 times, which is not borne out in the transcript. Mr. Schiff also said in his opening statement that Mr. Trump asked Zelensky to make up dirt on Mr. Biden, again, something the president didn't say in the 30-minute phone call in July. So, of course, President Trump had plenty to say about Schiff and the Democrats and this whole witch hunt. He took to Twitter, and here's what he said. He said, little Adam Schiff, who has worked unsuccessfully for 3 years to hurt the Republican Party and the president, has just said that the whistleblower, even though he or she only had secondhand information, is credible. How can that be with zero info and a known bias? Democrat scam. All right, and then a few hours later, yesterday, President Trump added this. He said, the president of Ukraine said that he was not pressured by me to do anything wrong. Can't have better testimony than that. As VP, Biden and his son, on the other hand, take out millions of dollars by strong-arming the Ukrainian president. Also looted millions from China. Bad. All right. So, and this is just ongoing. This is just the first day of the hearings. But you see what's going on here. I mean, you have the Democrats in the media. They've been attacking the president nonstop. But the other thing, the other element here that is really borne out in all of this is the bureaucratic mess that's in Washington. Not the elected officials, the people that are there decade after decade after decade. If they were center or right to begin with, after decades of living on the government system, they become left-wing, entrenched. They don't like Trump, and they're fighting their own president by making this stuff up. We've read the Ukrainian transcript. We've read the complaint. There's nothing there, and yet the Democrats and the media are treating it like this is the end of the world, and yet we have Joe Biden, who we're getting to in our next segment, actually doing wrongdoing as vice president. So what is going to happen now that we have a presidential campaign? Joe Biden's one of many candidates. Are they going to use this information against him from 2016? Recall, the story was that in 2016, as vice president, Joe Biden said to the Ukraine officials, I want you to get rid of your chief prosecutor. All right. We are withholding $1 billion in U.S. loan guarantees unless you get rid of this guy. All right. That guy, that prosecutor, was investigating Burisma Holdings, a company that was believed to be corrupt and who Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son, was on their board, making a huge sum of money. Joe Biden says, stop investigating, get rid of this guy. They got rid of this guy, and guess what? The loan guarantees went through. So talk about corruption, talk about pay for play. It's outrageous. So what are the Democrats, the other candidates, going to do with this information? Well, here's a report from the Washington Examiner. It says, the Democrat debates present a ripe opportunity for Biden's Democrat rivals to frame it as a classic case of Washington insiderism and cronyism, according to Republican strategist Brent Littlefield. The facts remain potent, even if inextricably linked to Trump's attempts to strong-arm the Ukrainian government into investigating allegations against Hunter Biden. If you strip away everything from the current political and media environment regarding the president and everything happening on Capitol Hill and just look at that basics, Certainly, Joe Biden's opponents could take advantage of the situation by just making the point that he was a lead person within the Obama administration on the issue of Ukraine, and yet his own son was earning large sums of money from a company in Ukraine, which was apparently connected to the government, Littlefield told the Washington Examiner, is not much more complicated than that. So what's going to happen with Joe Biden? I don't know. They're not going to investigate him, so it's just up to their other Democrat candidates to see if they want to take him down. It's just nuts. So folks, I like to end Friday on an upbeat note, and I had a perfect story that happened a couple weeks ago that I thought was just going to be a great way to end it. And sure enough, the media steps in and they just ruin things. And so I want to get to this story so you can see the impact and the good that is coming out of this. All right, so ESPN's College Football Game Day, it's their pregame show, their big show on Saturdays during college football season. They go to different college campuses and they set up their stage and they do their interviews, and there's students all around. Well, this one student at the Iowa State game decided he was going to try and get some airtime. So he brought this sign and says, Busch Light Supply needs replenished. Venmo, Carson King 25. All right. So he was going to wave this sign to try and get beer money and see if it appears on national TV. And here's part of the story.
In the slim chance he'd make it on TV, Carson made a sign requesting beer money be sent to his Venmo account.
I just kind of thought as a joke, maybe I could make a sign asking for money to get some Busch Light, buy some lattes. My mom was like, oh, this is going to be a proud mom moment. My son's going to be begging for money for beer on national television.
All right, that's a sign. So guess what happened next? Check this out.
I looked out at my phone because my friend was like, who keeps texting you? And it just kept going off, and I looked down, and I had about $400 on my Venmo account.
Moments later, it reached $600, then $1,000.
All right, so it's crazy stuff. It keeps growing. It gets to $1,000 in his account, and it's growing. He doesn't know what to do. So here's what happened next.
Carson called his parents, and they came up with a plan. Keep enough for a case of Busch Light and send the rest to the University of Iowa Stead Family Children's Hospital.
All right, so the guy, after talking to his parents, decides he's going to keep enough for a case of beer, and then he's going to donate the rest to the Children's Hospital that's right there on the campus of the University of Iowa. But it wasn't $1,000, folks. The donations kept coming in. It kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Venmo, the company that allows him to get these donations, they stepped in. They tweeted this. They said, we see a lot of great stories, but this is one of our faves at Carson King 2. Count us in for matching the donation to the hospital, too. So then Anheuser-Busch, they jumped into the mix as well, and they tweeted this. At Carson King, this is the best thing we've read all year. We're inspired. We're going to match your donation to the University of Iowa hospitals and clinics, and we'll throw in some of that Busch Light you were looking for. So this is like the feel-good story of the year. This 24-year-old guy just wants to be goofy and raise a sign, and now he's making, it's passing 100,000 with these donations and match donations and everything, all for a children's hospital. It's awesome. So what happens? So the newspaper, the Des Moines Register, decides to do a profile on this guy, 24-year-old Carson King, and the reporter, Aaron Calvin, decides to dig into his social media from way back in his past, all right? They find 2 tweets when he was 16 years old, and they decide they're going to use those, and they were like disparaging, offensive tweets, and they decide to use that in the story. So they contact Carson, and they say, we're going to use these. He's all ashamed. He's embarrassed. So he puts out a statement apologizing, all right? And here's what he wrote. He says, and that's why I wanted to share with you that 8 years ago, when I was a sophomore in high school, I made some social media posts with my friends that quoted and referenced the show Tosh.0. One of those posts was brought to my attention by a member of the media today. I had no recollection of it. In rereading it today, 8 years later, I see it was an attempt at humor that was offensive and hurtful. I am so embarrassed and stunned to reflect on what I thought was funny when I was 16 years old. I want to sincerely apologize. Okay, so Anheuser-Busch, they bailed. They cut the ties with him, and they put out this statement. They said, Carson King had multiple social media posts that do not align with our values as a brand or as a company, and we will have no further association with him. We are honoring our commitment by donating more than $350,000 to the University of Iowa hospitals and clinics. So it's just pathetic. This is an amazing story. As of yesterday, Carson King, through this sign effort that he thought was just going to be fun, has raised over $1.6 million for this children's hospital. And yet this reporter decides that part of the profile should be tweets that came out when the kid was 16 years old. It's absolutely pathetic. A change.org petition was put out just a few days ago to blast the Des Moines Register and ask for a full-page apology. It's already got over 165,000 signers on it. I mean, it's just nuts. And if anything, if there's any karma in this, any kind of silver lining, one, it's that these kids, the hospital is getting $1.6 million and it's growing. And the other is that people on the internet said, all right, well, let's investigate this Aaron Calvin reporter. And guess what? They dug up offensive tweets from his past racist tweets. And this guy locked his Twitter account, and the Des Moines Register said, yes, we are now aware of the tweets and we are looking into the situation. So there's some karma for you right there. So folks, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a great weekend. Please subscribe, and when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified, and we'll see you next time. I'm Bobby Eberly. This is the 13-Minute News Hour. Okay, friends, just a little reminder before you go, and no, this does not count against my 13 minutes. Please hit the subscribe button below and tell your friends. And if you happen to miss our last show, you can check it out right here. And also for great conservative news and commentary, please check out GOPUSA.com. All right, folks, we'll see you on the next show. Have a great day.